Indians, as we know, are very fond of buying property. In fact, the moment a person starts earning, the first parental advice is buy a house. Now, is this advice really valid, especially for the next generation, for this generation? It may be, in a lot of cases, it may be easier and a better option to rent a house. In the previous video, we had talked about the checklist for buying a house. But why don't you consider the pros and cons of both renting and buying before you take the final decision? Let's start with the advantages of renting a house. So the first thing is that the rent will typically be much lower than the EMI that you pay if you buy a house. Let us consider a 1 crore house in NCR, a 3 BHK house. Now, if you consider the rent, it's between 15,000 to 30,000 these days. And if you take a loan, it will amount to about 46,500 for 20 years at 7% interest after a 10% down payment. So that is a big issue, paying a very high EMI compared to a lower rent. Now, second is the advantage of renting is that you don't have to think of, when you're shifting jobs, you don't have to think twice about moving. Whether you're moving cities, whether you're moving to a new country, you can just get up and move. Another advantage is that the flexibility of choosing the location of the house that you want to rent. It can be, you can pick up a house that is close to your workplace, that is close to your children's school. It will help you reduce your transportation cost. So another advantage is that you don't have to pay a very large down payment if you buy a house. In case of renting a house, at the most you pay a 2-3 month security, which is frankly not very much compared to the down payment that you'll be making. Another advantage to renting a house is that there are no allied costs like property tax or maintenance or repair bills, renovation, etc. Another big advantage is that if you have a 2 BHK house, say, and there is an increase in your family size, you have a kid and all, and you want to shift to a bigger house, it's much easier to shift to a bigger rented house than buy a bigger house. So that is a huge advantage. Let us now consider the disadvantages of renting a house. One is that the rent will increase every year or 2 years. 8 to 10% is the norm. So take that into consideration. The second thing is that you cannot make any alterations, you cannot make any structural changes in the house without the approval of the landlord. So you have to live in the house as it is. Now the third disadvantage is that when you rent a house, there are a lot of societal limitations. So you will have to abide by all those limitations when you are in a rented flat. And the fourth disadvantage is that after you retire, your source of income will dry up. So how will you continue to pay that rent? You have to keep that in mind. Now we come to the advantages of buying a house. The biggest advantage, of course, is that instead of paying rent, you're building an asset that lasts a lifetime. That is one big advantage. Attached to this is the emotional security that comes with buying a house. And that for a lot of Indians is a very big factor. The other advantage is the tax benefits that you get. So under section 24, you get rupees 2 lakh rebate on the interest that you pay for a self-occupied house, along with 1.5 lakh under section 80C on the principal amount. So that is a big tax benefit that you get if you get a house and stay in it. Now the other advantage of having your own houses, of buying your own houses, that you don't have to constantly worry about shifting into a new house. When you're on a rent, you typically get an 11-month contract. Now, if the landlord insists that you shift out of his house after 11 months, you will have to constantly be looking for a new house. Having your own house means you don't have to do that. The next advantage is that the landlord issues are not there. So there will be no constant arguments over who will pay for the repairs, whether you can carry out this change or that change. It has to be totally based on the landlord's approval. Another advantage is that if you buy a house at the right time, say when the home loan rates are low, when the property rates are low, as it was a couple of years ago, and you had bought the house, you get the advantage not only of paying a low home loan rate, but also there is a higher chance of the price appreciation of your house. So take all these advantages and benefits into consideration. Let's come to the disadvantages of buying a house. The biggest disadvantage, I think, is that it is an illiquid asset. So it's very easy to buy a house, but if suppose you want to sell it, maybe you need the money or you want to shift elsewhere, it is not as easy or quick to sell a house. So keep that in mind. The other thing is that, as we have seen over the past decade or so, the property prices may not always escalate. There is a chance that they remain stagnant. So keep that in mind, of course. And the third disadvantage is that buying a property is an expensive proposition. So apart from the cost of purchase, there is the stamp duty, there is the property tax, there is the constant maintenance, repairs, renovation. So it is an expensive proposition, and you need to keep that in mind. So now you know the pros and cons of both buying and renting a house. You can very easily take a decision what you want to do.